Welcome, students. This will be part 2 of our notes on Congress. Let's begin.
Layout of Congress. How do members represent their constituencies? Remember that constituencies are the people and interests a House member or senator represents. So it's the people that elected that member to the office. But there's different ways to vote. You can either be a trustee, you can be a delegate, you can be partisan, or a politico. A trustee is somebody who votes very autonomously, independently from their constituency. They have the autonomy to deliberate and act as they see fit in their own conscience, even if it means going against the explicit desires of their constituents. So it's somebody that you vote for, knowing that they're going to be a trustee and independent and intelligent apart from what the people necessarily want. That conflicts with a delegate. A delegate is somebody who believes they should vote the way they think their constituencies would want them to vote. So they are more aligned to how the people want them to vote versus being autonomous and kind of thinking for themselves. But then you have partisans, and their first allegiance is to their own political party. And as much as that frustrates us, that's kind of how it gets things done because you have to have, because of our two-party system, there's almost alliances that need to be drawn, as frustrating as that is. But the Politico is attempting to combine all balances of the basic elements of the roles. So it's somebody who is a trustee, a delegate, a partisan, bringing all those, all the positive things from each of those three together. Member compensation. The main thing that you need to know is the franking privilege. But salary, as you can see right there, is a handsome salary because we are trying to compensate those who would be in high level positions already. Travel allowances, small fees. And you have to be very careful with your re-election committee because re-election finances cannot be spent on normal day-to-day finances for your family, and so that becomes an issue if you use campaign finances for that. But your actual salary, you have different travel fees for political business. But if you mix that with family or vacation, that can be an issue as well. Franking privilege allows members of Congress to mail letters and other material postage free by submitting their signature, Frank, for the postage. So they're allowed to have that privilege there. There's free printing, food allowances, parking spaces, Library of Congress privileges. You don't need to write all those down, but there's member compensation that happens as a congressman. Makeup of Congress, the House of Representatives, as we mentioned before, is 435 members. The Senate is 100 members. And it can differentiate between Republican and Democrat and also independent. The 115th district has a racial minority of 106, only 10 in the Senate, 7 LGBT, 104 are women. The almost 92% of Congress claims Christianity as their religious affiliation, done by the Poll Research Center. Interesting facts there on the makeup of Congress. You don't need to know those per se for the test. Congressional leadership, as you can see right here, is organized. You have Congress, you have the Speaker of the House, you have the President of the Senate. So you have the two houses there. Congress is made up, the Capitol building is the Congress, but you have the two houses. You have the House and you have the Senate. The majority leader and the minority leader is under the Speaker of the House. Our current Speaker of the House in the House of Representatives, Congress, is Nancy Pelosi. That'll be up for, in a sense, re-election in November. Majority whip versus minority whip. And also you have committee chairs that happen. You also have very similar within the Senate. You have the majority leader and the minority leader, but the president of the Senate, or president pro tempore, you have the president of the Senate is actually the vice president, and we'll look at that in a little bit. You also have committee chairs that happen as well. So House leadership, Speaker of the House, second in line for presidency. So if the president and the vice president die, then the Speaker of the House becomes president. And that could be a way that we would have our first female president, though we're hoping that that doesn't happen to the presidency and vice president. Responsibilities: keep order, refer bills to committees, put motions to a vote, can debate and vote, appoints members to select committees, signs all passed bills, heads the House Rules Committee. So pretty important responsibilities that the Speaker of the House has. Our last Speaker of the House was Paul Ryan, but Nancy Pelosi is now the Speaker of the House. She was Speaker of the House previously as well. Now, how do you become Speaker of the House? Well, whoever has the majority, whichever political party has the majority votes in Congress, gets to select who the Speaker of the House is. So 2 years ago, the Republicans had the House, and Paul Ryan was selected by the Congress, but then that switched in 2018. It switched that the House went to the Democrats, and so Nancy Pelosi has been the current Speaker of the House. You have Senate leadership here. The president is the Senate, as I mentioned before, not a member of the body, not necessarily from a major party, may only vote to break a tie and may not debate. So the president of the Senate is the vice president. However, the vice president may not vote, they may not talk, they can only break a tie vote if that happens. If it's 50 to 50, 50 Republicans to 50 Democrats or something like that, then the vice president can vote. President pro tempore, or pro temp, ranking member of the majority party, presides in VP's absence. So if the vice president is ever absent, then he can take the place there of the president of the Senate. So Senate leadership, you have the Senate minority leader, the Senate majority leader. The Republicans have a majority in the Senate. That's how they were not. That's how they did not pass or approve the impeachment of Donald Trump. Chuck Schumer is the Senate minority leader, and Senate majority leader is Mitch McConnell. Again, that can change every 2 years depending on the makeup and the size of the Republicans versus Democrats in the Senate. Our official California senators is Kamala Harris, who previously had attempted to run for the presidency in December, and Dianne Feinstein. She's a longstanding senator from California. So Congressional Leadership Organization. We have the Party Caucus. Meets before each session to decide leadership, committee membership, organizations, steering committees, committees on committees. So those party caucuses, all the Republicans meet together, all the Democrats meet together. They really decide a lot of those things. Pretty important part is committees. Committees is where most work happens, markup bills. And so these committees, they really work on the bills and how they should, how they can be passed. Committee chairman or chairwoman, seniority rule exists. So if you have been in the Senate or Congress for a longer time, you have more of a weight. You get to go first. You are listened to more. Chosen by majority party in their caucus. So if you want to be part of a committee, you can, but you are chosen by the majority party. Decides meeting times, schedules hearings, prioritizes the bills to focus on. So that's It's a lot of work that they do there. You also have the standing committees, the permanent filters through the bills. So the initial committees, they start the bills, but the standing committees, they are going to filter through the bills. And these people are permanent. They're not, they don't fluctuate their responsibilities. You also have subcommittees that handle specific areas, reports back to the full committees. So if the standing committee or if the committees put something together, the subcommittees can then report back to the committees and say, hey, you need to change this, you need to change that. Because again, remember that everything is compromise, and so bills that are passed have to pass through several layers of compromise. Now, the reason for this is that we have checks on Congress, the judicial review. Laws may be deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, judicial review. The president may veto a law. So a law could get through all of Congress, both houses, and be approved and bipartisanship, but the president can veto the law if desired. Executive must approve budget. So when Congress creates a budget that they want to spend with, the president has to approve it. And there can be a government shutdown if that is not approved, if the presidency and the Congress and Senate don't get along. Congressional checks on other branches. Congressional oversight we have, which is the investigation of the executive branch activities, known as impeachment. Also the power of the purse, which is budget control. So the president cannot just spend money wherever he wants. He has to request money and funds from the Congress. You also have confirming presidential appointments. You have approving treaties that happen as well. So you have a lot of different responsibilities. Now, what are some criticisms of the Congress? There's some problems that we have with Congress, things like gridlock, which is a common system of divided government and increased party polarization. You have pork barrel legislation, which is intended only to benefit individual districts. So you'll have where different congressmen will add things to the oftentimes known as earmarking, adding things to the bills, but those are things that are only to benefit their district instead of the whole United States. Ineffective in addressing important issues. They use a filibuster in the Senate, which we'll talk about later on. That's a stalling in the Senate, that they can stall an important bill from being passed by simply just talking a lot. The franking privilege and other perks to elected representatives. And unaccountable. Incumbents have extremely high reelection rates, and so it's hard to get them out of office there. We do have a few fun facts here that I'd like to share regarding the Congress. Oldest senator was Strom Thurmond. He was 100 when he retired. Robert Byrd was the longest serving senator, 51 years, 5 months, 26 days. You can travel from the House buildings to the Capitol to the Senate buildings all underground. Senior senators have 2 offices, or second office, and kitchens under the Capitol. There are still remains of the Senate baths in the Capitol. Members have spent the night in the Capitol to finish official business. You may not bring an extra pair of shoes into the Senate galleries because they have had people throw them at members before. So don't bring your extra pair of shoes.